Shima, the heir to his family, lost his mother and an arm in a car accident. Abandoned by his family and father, he was exiled to a remote villa to fend for himself. Just when he thought his life was over, on a snowy winter night, a mysterious girl visited his villa. She introduced herself as Yuzuki and claimed she was there to marry Shima. Shima then recalled that his father mentioned no one from the family would care for him and decided to find him a wife. Overwhelmed at the time, Shima didn't take these words seriously. Now it seemed that Yuzuki was likely sold to settle a debt. Shima draped his coat over Yuzuki, simply advising her not to catch a cold. Believing himself to be merely a walking corpse, he thought having a wife was meaningless. Nevertheless, Shima arranged a room for Yuzuki. Due to a throbbing pain in his right hand, Shima struggled to sleep until dawn. Unexpectedly, Yuzuki started cleaning early in the morning and insisted on washing Shima's face, which embarrassed him greatly. Even after he refused her care, Yuzuki stayed busy, tidying up the room neatly and even carrying a basket twice her height for shopping. Her strength was truly frightening. Yuzuki disrupted Shima's listless routine by feeding him and sewing clothes. Before Shima had time to complain, Yuzuki barged in during his bath, insisting on scrubbing his back since his right hand was nearly immobile. Shima shivered in the corner, but ended up being scrubbed forcefully on a bench by Yuzuki. His right hand injury, affecting the nerves, made movement difficult. Shima thought Yuzuki often behaved like a well-bred lady, though she could be quirky at times. He mused that Yuzuki must be carefree, but she revealed she had two worries. Shima remembered Yuzuki was sold by her family to be his wife, and regretted his words. However, Yuzuki, complaining about her voluminous hair, wished for straight, long hair, which made Shima laugh. Yuzuki was happy her hair troubles could amuse someone, but an embarrassed Shima threw her out of the bathroom. Previously, Yuzuki attended a girls' academy where she was very popular. The girls thought of her as a gentle and wise mommy, often feeding her snacks. Yuzuki had to drop out soon because her family was in debt, and she was married off to the creditor's son. Women in that era had to be at least 15 to marry, but Yuzuki, not yet 15, was still asked to take care of the young master. With no choice but pledged in marriage, Yuzuki resolved to take good care of her future husband. Her friends hoped she would find happiness, and after meeting Shima, Yuzuki felt it wasn't too bad. The new year is approaching, and Shima can't sleep. He sits in the living room, haunted by disdainful remarks from his father and family, and hurtful words from his siblings, wishing it had been him, not their mother, who had died. Shima feels increasingly pained. At that moment, Yuzuki joins him in the living room and lights the hearth in the tatami floor, wanting to stay up with him through the night. Shima doesn't understand what Yuzuki is thinking. He feels she too is pitiable, driven to this remote place and forced to marry someone like him, a man he considers worthless. He thinks just living with him must be painful for her. As Shima's emotions start to crumble, Yuzuki simply pours him a cup of hot milk, talks about her daily life at the girls' school, and sings a song she learned there. Shima remembers his mother singing the same song to his sister. Yuzuki fondly recalls her school days, while Shima has no wish to return to school. His right hand has become unresponsive and he fears failure at school. Every night he contemplates never waking up, feeling that no one would mourn his death. The more he thinks about it, the harder it is to sleep. Yuzuki stands, strokes Shima's head, and pulls him into a comforting embrace. Shima can't understand why Yuzuki is so kind to him when his own family has abandoned him. Yuzuki shares that she was also very anxious when she first learned she was to marry a stranger, but upon their first meeting, when Shima learned she had walked 3 kilometers in the snow, his immediate reaction was to offer his coat. Yuzuki found Shima sincere and gentle, a man who would cherish her, so she wants to treat him with the same gentleness. She asks if he would like to rest together, just in time to welcome the New Year's dawn. Shima, confused but touched, agrees and nervously returns to his room to flip through books, realizing school hadn't prepared him for this. Then, Yuzuki arrives with her bedding, and Shima realizes they are just to sleep separately. He feels silly for his nervousness. Just as he lies down, Yuzuki asks if he wants to share a quilt with her. She shyly says it's not yet possible, as such things are only for after marriage, but affirms she will eventually be his. Shima blushes and asks if Yuzuki would really give her purity to someone she doesn't like. Yuzuki responds that she wants to stay by his side to understand him fully, believing she will naturally come to love him. As Shima tries to sleep, he finds Yuzuki holding onto his sleeve, and he drifts off. The next day, he wakes up to a feast prepared by Yuzuki. While admitting it is delicious, Shima, the pessimist, believes he could never fall for Yuzuki. But deep down, he knows a flag has already been raised. As early spring approached, Shima, still groggy, went to take a bath. As soon as he opened the door, he found Yuzuki inside. Both blushed deeply, and Shima hastily retreated. At dinner, he explained that the steam in the bathroom was too thick and his vision was poor, so he didn't see anything clearly. Yuzuki sighed in relief, passed him a fish with the bones picked out, and even wiped rice grains from his mouth. Shima blushed. Although Yuzuki was set to be his wife, he felt guilty to have such a young girl take care of him. At that time, he received a letter from his father stating that his brother and sister were being matched for marriage, but considering Shima's disabled right hand and his dropout from school, he might be despised by the marrying family. The family declared Shima had died in a car accident, claiming it was his only contribution to the family honor, which was more important than life itself. The letter deeply upset Shima. He covered himself with a blanket and refused to come out for meals. Yuzuki was very worried about him. After 2 days of not seeing Shima leave his room, she decided to bring food directly to him. Eating was most important, no matter what. As soon as she entered the room, she found Shima had developed a high fever. Yuzuki hurriedly brought water to cool him down. Shima dreamed of being abandoned by his father and family. He felt a strong desire to die, thinking it would be better if he were dead, as his father and siblings would prefer him dead. His death would also free Yuzuki from this pointless task. Shima felt his existence was a hindrance to everyone and decided to think of ways to kill himself. Yuzuki grabbed his face and said such talk was not funny at all. Through tears, Shima said that his father had already declared him dead. Yuzuki told him that if it hurt so much just to speak about it, he should forget the matter. Facing hostility was painful enough. Why deepen the wound? Shima felt so sick, he almost vomited. Yuzuki hugged him tightly, and he instinctively embraced her back. The next day, Shima's fever had subsided. When he stepped outside, he saw Yuzuki's coat washed and hanging to dry. It seemed he had indeed vomited the previous night. In the kitchen, he found Yuzuki, who asked him to lower his head so she could check his temperature by placing her forehead against his. Shima blushed, while Yuzuki draped the coat over him and told him to rest. Shima felt guilty for soiling her most expensive outfit and suggested taking Yuzuki to Tokyo. For Yuzuki, who was new to the Taisho-era Tokyo, the city seemed overwhelmingly busy. Shima, seeing familiar school uniforms, felt a bit uneasy, but still wanted to make it up to Yuzuki. They went to a department store and picked out fabric she liked as a way to compensate for the damaged clothes. Yuzuki, draped in fabric, asked Shima which one looked better. Thinking both colors looked good, Shima decided to buy them all. Yuzuki was concerned about the cost, but Shima assured her he had enough money. On the way back, Shima noticed Yuzuki was very happy and apologized again for ruining her clothes. He asked if the outfit had special significance. Yuzuki shared that it was the first dress she made herself, but now, with the fabric Shima bought, it might become the first gift her husband gave her, possibly even passed down to their daughter or granddaughter. Shima turned red at her words. Yuzuki promised to make the outfit as fashionable as the ones worn by the popular singer Kotori, who was very popular in girls' schools. Afterwards, Shima and Yuzuki strolled through the mall, with Yuzuki finding everything new and exciting, which was quite relaxing to see. They soon reached a dessert store. Yuzuki, captivated by the ice cream inside, led Shima in. She scooped some ice cream for Shima to try, a bold move for that era, drawing curious glances from passers-by, leaving them both blushing and embarrassed. Yuzuki was used to sharing with friends at her girls' school. Shima was happy, as long as Yuzuki was happy. But when he saw a family with children dining at the restaurant, he was suddenly reminded of his own childhood meals with his parents. Recalling that his father had declared him dead to the outside world, Shima felt a deep pain. Immediately sensing Shima's distress, Yuzuki made an excuse to leave and shared on the train ride back that she had told her parents to consider her dead before she left home. She explained that she wasn't truly dead, but they would never meet again, making it feel as though she had died. Despite this, she hoped her parents would continue to live happily. Yuzuki believed that a positive mindset could lighten the heart. Shima realized that Yuzuki sometimes spoke profound truths. When he saw Yuzuki nearly thrown off by the train, he quickly pulled her back. Yuzuki smiled secretly, promising herself to stay by his side. After returning from Tokyo, Shima noticed Yuzuki busily making clothes after finishing chores. A month later, she successfully completed the outfit and was delighted with it, laughing at Shima, who was stunned by her appearance. Shima blushed and stubbornly denied it. Unexpectedly, at that moment, Shima's sister, Tamako, arrived at the villa with her luggage, intending to stay. She remarked that this was now his residence, but teasingly added, "Wasn't Shima supposed to be dead?" Which was quite hurtful. Tamako casually handed the luggage handlers 10 yen each, a significant amount in the Taisho era, akin to the price of 1 gram of gold today, indicating the family's wealth. She immediately noticed Yuzuki and knew she was the fiancé bought for Shima by the family, despite being so petite at 14 years old. Tamako, taller than Yuzuki at 12, knew how to make sharp comments, truly living up to her reputation as a wicked girl. Tamako chose a large room in the house. Yuzuki immediately moved her luggage there and aired out the bedding, telling Tamako to call if she needed anything. Then, Yuzuki went to cook. Shima was concerned that Tamako's sudden visit might upset Yuzuki, but Yuzuki said she was happy to have more people in the house. Shima remarked that Tamako was not as easy to get along with as he had hoped, being the most capable among the siblings, but also the most inscrutable. Unlike his own reason for expulsion due to an injury, Tamako had also been isolated by the family. Shima had hoped that attending a girls' school would change her, but it seemed not. Yuzuki, however, expressed a desire to befriend Tamako, which Shima doubted. Just then, Tamako approached, and Shima asked why she came, given he was considered dead by the family. Tamako laughed, recounting how their siblings had awkwardly acted sorrowful at a matchmaking event, even their father shedding crocodile tears. Shima looked downcast. Tamako announced she would eat dinner in her room, preferring not to dine with her brother. Shima asked Yuzuki to bring his dinner to his room too. The next day, Shima had little appetite, troubled by Tamako revealing his true thoughts. Yuzuki decided to take him for a walk. Unable to refuse her hopeful gaze, Shima joined her to the hill behind their home, where they found a stream and forest. Shima had never noticed these details before. Yuzuki led him to a huge tree with a tiny fox spirit in its hollow, likening it to a fairy tale world. Seeing Shima relax made Yuzuki very happy, feeling the outing was worthwhile. She invited him to taste the spring water at the stream's source. Since Shima could only use his left hand, Yuzuki helped him drink, leaving them both a bit shy. As they descended the hill, Yuzuki took Shima's hand, saying she also had a great time and hoped to do it again. Both felt a bit embarrassed. Then Yuzuki showed him the hill's flower fields. Shima had thought his life would be dark, but since meeting Yuzuki, he realized the darkness was gradually dispersing. After returning, Tamako secretly observed Yuzuki and was surprised to find Yuzuki making caramel milk. Tamako thought Yuzuki should be reluctant, as her family had sold her to Shima to settle debts. However, Yuzuki never saw it that way and mentioned that Tamako and Shima, being siblings, both liked to observe others from behind. Tamako was reluctant to admit this. Later, Yuzuki wrapped the caramel milk she made and gave it to Shima as a snack. Shima mentioned he had never tried such a Western dessert, so Yuzuki fed him a piece and accidentally got her hand bitten. Shima said it tasted warm, to which Yuzuki replied that it was because she made it with care. Passing by, Tamako felt like she was fed dog food in anger, threw the candy on the ground, and claimed there was no warm flavor, dismissing it as childish talk. That night, Tamako dreamt of her childhood, when her sister spoiled her food. She wanted to complain to her father, but he was busy and just gave money to a servant to keep her company. Tamako felt no one was willing to help her. Her aloof attitude also isolated her in the girls' school, where the students felt she couldn't embody the ideal Japanese woman. Woken by thunder, Tamako, who was terrified of it, considered knocking on Yuzuki's door but felt it inappropriate. When thunder struck again, she screamed, waking Yuzuki. Claiming she needed the bathroom, Yuzuki accompanied her. Lightning struck nearby, and Tamako, only 12, was so frightened she wet herself. Yuzuki immediately took her to the bathroom, doused her with water, and told her to bathe while she went out to heat water under an umbrella. Tamako couldn't understand Yuzuki's dedication. In her family, any burden was ruthlessly abandoned. Despite Tamako's terrible actions towards Yuzuki, she was willing to heat water, comb her hair, and comfort her during the storm. Tamako, never allowed to be spoiled as a child, had hoped to find like-minded friends in the girls' school, but everyone judged her, making her reluctant to attend school anymore. After learning that Tamako had not attended school, her father scolded her and asked if she wanted to become like Shima. Tamako no longer wanted to stay at home, so she went to Shima's place instead. Yuzuki felt that Tamako was very lonely and thought that if she had such a cute sister, she would never let her become like this. Tamako mentioned that she was tall and aloof, which she believed made others dislike her. However, Yuzuki hugged the shivering Tamako, told her that the spring thunder signaled the arrival of spring, and sang her a lullaby. The next day, Shima woke up and found Tamako making sweets with Yuzuki, calling her Sister Yuzuki. It was the first time Shima had seen Tamako so happy. Although he was excluded from the girls' gathering, Shima was not angry but puzzled about what had happened. He joked that his wife had given his sister a thorough cleansing. Shima had nearly finished reading all the books at home and found a textbook on the shelf. He remembered his family's notorious reputation at school, which led many classmates to ostracize him. However, Shima did not hate studying and always had good grades, but that was all in the past. At that moment, Shima heard music from downstairs. It turned out Yuzuki and Tamako were playing Kotori. Tamako now liked Yuzuki very much, and had even styled her hair into fluffy twin ponytails. She criticized Shima for entering a girl's room. Then, Yuzuki cleaned the room. As the weather was gradually getting warmer, Shima read in the courtyard and sweated profusely. Yuzuki fanned him, as they had been living together for over half a year. Shima remembered Yuzuki once said she wanted to observe him and possibly develop feelings for him. He was curious about how Yuzuki saw him now, but arrogantly thought it wasn't about making her fall for him. Yuzuki was about to pour tea for Shima, but felt dizzy upon standing up, and accidentally fell into his arms. She worried about pressing on his right hand, but Shima reassured her that he could handle it and pretended to be a pillar so Yuzuki could rest against him for a while. Yuzuki said she had recovered, but Shima was still worried, and indeed found Yuzuki collapsed in the hallway. Shima was very concerned about Yuzuki's condition. Hearing the noise, Tamako immediately rushed out. Shima wanted to carry Yuzuki, but Tamako worried his injured hand might cause an accident, so Shima gave up his room for her. Tamako said Yuzuki had a slight fever and decided to remove her jacket to cool down. She then sent Shima to the corner to reflect on his actions. Tamako told Yuzuki to rest well. Yuzuki smelled Shima's scent, and upon opening her eyes, she told Shima and Tamako that lunch was in the pot in the kitchen, including the wild vegetables that Tamako liked. Shima was touched that Yuzuki was still worried about their lunch at this time. Tamako got up to find a doctor, but Shima did not know where the village doctor was located. Tamako sighed in frustration and decided to go out and look for someone herself, asking Shima to stay in the room to cool Yuzuki's forehead. Knowing Shima was not good at socializing, Tamako asked him to stay home and take care of Yuzuki. However, Shima struggled to draw water from the well with one hand and ended up spilling it on the floor. When Tamako returned with the doctor, she found Shima wiping the floor. She sighed but didn't scold him, simply stating she would handle it herself, which made Shima feel disheartened. After the doctor's visit, Shima stepped forward to pay the medical fee. The doctor remarked that their family, as rumors had it, was aloof and thought that Yuzuki had collapsed due to the hot weather and overwork, suggesting Shima was likely ordering her around all day. The doctor mentioned that servants are humans too, having heard that the child was sold here, separated from her family to live in the deep mountains alone with someone like Shima. It was also rumored that little Tamako treated everyone around her as servants, thinking money would get them to help. The doctor said some illnesses can't be cured by money, like Shima's injured right hand, and advised them to be careful to avoid irreparable consequences. Just then, Tamako burst out fiercely and dismissed the doctor, telling Shima that their family was just slightly taller than others, not aloof. She acknowledged that she did pay people she hired, but insisted that those like the doctor wouldn't understand, and clarified that Yuzuki was not a servant, and there was nothing disgraceful between her and Shima. Shima knew these things, but did not defend them. He turned around, looking worried, saying that Yuzuki's overwork was because of him. Tamako felt that her sudden appearance had increased Yuzuki's workload, so she decided to take care of Yuzuki herself. Shima felt fortunate that Tamako was there today, as with his useless right hand, he wouldn't have been much help alone, and feared Yuzuki might have been in danger if left with him alone, which deeply frightened him. Tamako intended to change Yuzuki's clothes, but found Yuzuki had already changed herself and was worried about Shima. Tamako asked Yuzuki if she truly wanted to stay with her brother, noting that Shima was unreliable in critical moments, and suggested that Yuzuki should marry someone better. However, Yuzuki felt that leaving would leave Shima alone again. Yuzuki mentioned having a friend who was often abused by her mother and spoke of wanting to die soon. Concerned, Yuzuki consulted her mother, who said that a person's heart belongs only to them, and once closed, is hard to open again. Her mother advised that ultimately, it's up to the individual to find a solution, and as a friend, one can only believe and protect them. A reliable companion can bring change. Therefore, Yuzuki believed that Shima would one day seek happiness himself, as he was her future husband. After preparing the bathwater, Tamako realized the importance of Yuzuki's words. Thinking of helping others made her body involuntarily move. Shima, worried in the courtyard and feeling useless, decided to see Yuzuki. Upon entering the room, he found Yuzuki breathing rapidly, with blood on her chest and hands. Frightened, Shima rushed to check and found only a scratch on her arm. Yuzuki was trying to loosen her chest binding to breathe easier, but was disoriented and scratched her hand. Seeing Yuzuki struggling to breathe, Shima frantically searched for Tamako, who was taking a bath and unaware of the situation. Shima, desperate, decided to cut off the binding himself, remembering that saving her was the priority. Upon cutting, he was shocked by her large breasts, hidden by the tight binding. After Yuzuki could breathe easily, she noticed Shima, blushed, and adjusted her neckline. She mentioned that her large chest was her second worry, as it made her uncomfortable at the all-girls school, which is why she had been binding it. She joked that it seemed all her nutrition went to her chest due to her short stature. At that moment, Shima apologized to Yuzuki, lamenting that as a man he couldn't be of much help. The one time he did help, he ended up embarrassing her. Shima felt he couldn't do anything right, and even Yuzuki couldn't rely on him. Thinking of ending their relationship before anything worse could happen, he planned to send Yuzuki back, hoping that such a good person could find happiness. Yuzuki suddenly hugged Shima tightly, surprising him. She asserted that she was not as fragile as Shima thought and that she had always been proactive. The next morning, Yuzuki was back to full strength. Shima wanted her to rest another day, but Yuzuki insisted on having rice balls that Tamako had made, pulling Shima along to eat together. The moment she grasped his hand, Shima felt his heart flutter and aspired to be the man Yuzuki could depend on. At the dining table, however, Tamako announced that she planned to leave the next day to pursue a career in medicine. Shima questioned Tamako's decision. She explained that she had already called her uncle, who said she could come any time, although Shima's father would likely disapprove. Tamako believed that the prestige of their family combined with a medical profession would attract many suitors. She planned to use this as an excuse to persuade her father to let her study medicine. Yuzuki decided to ask Tamako about her true intentions, treating her like a sister. Tamako confessed it was surprising for her as well. She had never cared about others or thought about helping them in the first 12 years of her life. However, seeing Yuzuki collapse triggered an instinctive reaction. Tamako felt that with medical knowledge, she could have immediately aided Yuzuki. Despite their family's notorious reputation as a demon clan, making her uncertain about helping others, Tamako still wanted to try. Moreover, after studying medicine, she planned to marry a wealthy man who could finance her dreams of building a hospital and a mansion, leaving Shima and Yuzuki speechless. After packing her bags, Shima approached Tamako to talk. He thanked her for taking care of Yuzuki and was glad she came. Just then, Yuzuki rushed out with her blanket, suggesting they all sleep together that night. Yuzuki hummed a tune as she fell asleep, while Tamako slowly drifted off. Shima understood his sister's unease. He felt that he and Tamako, both living in solitude, were very alike. As her brother, he wanted to look after her. Remembering Yuzuki's care for him, Shima touched Tamako's head and admitted he lacked a caring heart. Although Tamako always thought Shima disliked her, it wasn't true. He cherished her the most in the family and hoped she would fulfill her dream of becoming a doctor. Shima felt a bit embarrassed after speaking. The next day, Shima and Yuzuki went to see Tamako off. Yuzuki had prepared a gift, but Tamako stopped Shima, telling him to praise her in person next time, as praising her while she slept wouldn't move her. This left Shima terribly embarrassed. Tamako boarded the train with a smile, opening the box to find Yuzuki's sweets and an anatomy book Shima had placed there. Her time with them had changed her. By September, although considered dead by the outside world, Shima still wanted to stabilize their future. Yuzuki brought some snacks and realized it was market time, so she immediately set out with a basket. Recalling the doctor's words, Shima quickly followed her. Upon reaching the market, people stared at Yuzuki, knowing she was sold to the feared demon house. Shima said he came to buy books and would help carry her basket. They rarely went out, so Yuzuki could buy more. Their family was tall for their time, making them stand out. Shima worried this might cause trouble for Yuzuki, but found her smiling happily. She recalled their last outing to Tokyo and how fun it was. While Yuzuki picked out stationery, she pointed out a bookstall to Shima, who loved reading. Neglected by his parents as a child, even his birthday was ignored, which saddened him. Yuzuki was very concerned about him. After buying books, they prepared to return home, unaware a girl was watching them. That evening, Shima noticed the dishes were especially plentiful and asked what the occasion was. Yuzuki, smiling, said, "Because today is your birthday, Shima." Shima was surprised and asked how she knew. Yuzuki mentioned they were fiancés and she had asked Tamako for Shima's birthday. She also prepared a bookmark as a gift. Receiving a birthday gift for the first time almost brought Shima to tears, healing his lonely childhood in an instant. Moved, Shima hugged Yuzuki. They looked at each other, too tense to breathe. Suddenly, there was a loud noise outside. Shima quickly went to check, worried Yuzuki might think he was strange. Following the noise, he found a woman with a mole on her lip who had entered his room and eaten the candy Yuzuki made for him. The woman said she was from Yamashita village, came to greet Shima, and also found the magazines Shima was reading, teasing him for collecting a whole set. She then prepared to leave with a smile. Shima asked her to pay for a broken glass bottle, but she ran away. Yuzuki came and saw the broken bottle. Shima, worried she saw the magazines, tried to change the topic to the bookmark, but then noticed it was missing. It seems the woman took it when she was close. Shima said losing his wallet didn't matter, but the bookmark Yuzuki gave him as his first birthday gift must not be taken by someone else. Shima rode his bicycle to chase her, not knowing Yuzuki smelled a woman's perfume in his room. The woman, named Ryu, indeed was a habitual thief. After taking the wallet and bookmark, she ran inside the house. Shima chased her on his bicycle and arrived just as Ryu was arguing with her father. Ryu didn't want to be a thief, but her father demanded she do these things, and even made her hand over the stolen money in front of her young brothers. Ryu called her father a scum for making his daughter commit crimes while he spent time in bars. Ryu said the money was for family living expenses, but her father slapped her and complained it wasn't enough. When her brothers tried to stop him, they were beaten too. Outside, Shima, reminded of his own father, was too scared to intervene and returned home with his bike. There, he found Yuzuki had cleaned up the broken glass and prepared a new bottle. Distraught, Shima retreated to his room, regretting not protecting Yuzuki's gift on his birthday and feeling cursed by his birthday. Later, Shima decided to go alone to retrieve the bookmark from Ryu, fearing her father might be home. He found Ryu and her brothers in the bath, claimed he saw nothing due to his nearsightedness. Ryu tried to extort money from him. Shima said he was only there for the bookmark, which was very important to him. When Ryu's brother asked her for help with math, which she couldn't understand, she used the bookmark to coerce Shima into teaching them. Curious, Ryu asked why the bookmark mattered so much. Shima explained it was made by his fiancée, and he cherished it. Ryu's expression became complicated at the mention of Yuzuki. As Shima helped the children with their homework and found them to be good students, he enjoyed being called a teacher. However, when he asked for the bookmark, Ryu heard her father returning and knew he would be violent. She urged Shima to leave and promised to return the bookmark later. Shima had to hide and couldn't retrieve it. Unsure how to face Yuzuki, he saw her gentle smile back home and felt guilty. He lied about going to his room. Yuzuki detected a perfume scent on him. Shima felt ashamed about losing the bookmark and failed to notice Yuzuki's sad expression, which kept him awake all night. He had planned to confess to Yuzuki. When Ryu came to visit, she noticed Shima's special care for Yuzuki and thought she was not worthy of him. Ryo, feeling jealous, deliberately told Yuzuki that Shima had spent the day with her, claiming he saw her body and even gave her the bookmark, praising Ryu's beauty as resembling the flower on the bookmark. This statement devastated Yuzuki, who then used the bookmark to threaten Shima, demanding he take her as a concubine. During their argument, the bookmark fell in front of Yuzuki, who smelled it. Shima explained that both his wallet and the bookmark were stolen by Ryu. Yuzuki said she believed Shima, but tore up the bookmark in his presence. Ryu left triumphantly, envious of Yuzuki, a purchased woman receiving such good care. She thought there was something despicable about such a pitiful person. Shima picked up the pieces of the torn bookmark, careful not to let Yuzuki see. Yuzuki seemed indifferent about the bookmark afterward and remained cheerful, but Shima felt something was off. At that moment, Tamako called. Shima learned she was happy at a girls' school, making many friends, and mentioned she had wanted to call on his birthday but postponed due to shyness. During the call, Tamako sensed something was wrong between Shima and Yuzuki, as the birthday wouldn't have been so dismal otherwise. Shima told Tamako about the day's events and Ryo's theft and misunderstanding. Tamako asked if Shima had considered why Yuzuki gave him a bookmark with bellflowers, which in the language of flowers among her schoolmates symbolizes unchanging love meant only for someone cherished. Despite being stolen, the thought of another woman having the flower was heart-wrenching. Shima felt upset, ended the call, and tried to fix the bookmark. Yuzuki found him with the bookmark later and felt mixed emotions, regretting her impulsiveness in tearing it up. Shima quickly shook his head, saying Yuzuki did nothing wrong. He just wanted to prove that feelings don't change. Yuzuki mentioned that Shima could have told her directly about the bookmark issue. However, since Shima neither ate with her nor spent time with her, it made her very worried and anxious. Yuzuki didn't want Shima to keep things from her and was also angry that he seemed close to another woman. "You already have me, don't you?" Yuzuki vented her frustrations. Shima listened quietly to her complaints and eventually managed to successfully piece the bookmark back together. The weather gradually turned autumnal. Ryu's younger brothers unexpectedly brought people to find Shima, hoping he would teach them to read. Despite Ryu's actions, these children couldn't be blamed. Moreover, Yuzuki wanted Shima to overcome his psychological troubles, so she helped prepare a table. Shima tutored the children, and by the next day, even more had joined. The village children thought highly of Shima for his simple teaching methods and gentle nature, which made him somewhat embarrassed. Yuzuki watched happily from the doorway. Unexpectedly, Ryu appeared, announcing she had prepared food and insisted on Yuzuki helping her cook. Shima was worried about Yuzuki, but was held up by the children. Yuzuki was puzzled about Ryu's intentions, but Ryu claimed she liked both Shima and Yuzuki. She admitted to teasing Yuzuki last time, not expecting her to tear up the bookmark. After reflecting, Ryu found Yuzuki different from what she had imagined, so she came to apologize, suggesting they get along better and even jokingly mentioned becoming a concubine in the future, which Yuzuki naturally disagreed with. Later, the two prepared udon noodles for the children. Yuzuki thought Ryu was a good sister. In the afternoon, Ryu left with the children, seeing Yuzuki and Shima laughing happily. She wondered what it feels like to be sold here yet live happily, asking rhetorically, "So, what does it matter to you?" That night, Shima resolved to pick up pen and paper again. He also began helping Yuzuki with the chores. After a tiring day of cleaning, he fell asleep, and Yuzuki let him rest on her lap before placing a pillow under his head. Shima slept until evening and woke to Yuzuki singing outside. Concerned she might be cold, he rushed out and hugged her. Yuzuki shyly told Shima that she turned 15 today, and by the laws of that era, she was of marriageable age. She asked if they were already considered husband and wife. Shima replied that they could not marry yet. He explained he had only ever dealt with his cold family and did not understand what a happy family was like. He felt unworthy of the excellent Yuzuki and believed he should live alone due to his disabled right hand, thinking he could not make Yuzuki happy. Just as Yuzuki was about to speak, Shima interrupted, saying he had thought long about pursuing happiness and considering returning to high school to further his education and find a good job. Then he could provide happiness for Yuzuki, but they could not marry yet. Yuzuki felt this was enough and expressed her joy at being by Shima's side. As emotions deepened, they kissed and both felt a bit embarrassed afterward. After New Year's Eve, Shima continued teaching, while Ryu's brother said goodbye to him, stating he was going to work as a servant in Tokyo with a good employer, though he did not seem happy. That evening, Shima and Yuzuki discussed how hard it was for such young children to start working, unsure of how to comfort them. At that moment, Ryu rushed over, knocking on their door to inform them her brother had run away and was now missing. Seeing Ryu's tears, Shima and Yuzuki decided to help search for him. Ryu felt very guilty, believing her brother went to work to protect her after he had defended her from being forced by someone. At that moment, Yuzuki found the brother asleep in the warehouse. He burst into tears, saying he didn't want to be a servant because he might never return once he left, and the thought of not seeing his sister and family upset him. Shima reassured him that other servants managed to get holidays and could even bring their families to Tokyo. This comforted the brother. Following the sound, Ryu found her brother in the warehouse and rushed to hug him, then noticed Shima and Yuzuki embracing. Ultimately, the brother decided to go ahead with the job. Before he left, Ryu and her family, including Shima and Yuzuki who brought gifts, saw him off. The brother called Shima teacher and boarded the train to Tokyo under everyone's watchful eyes. Ryu thanked them both, and Shima was happy seeing more students around. Shima wanted to return to school and wrote 5 letters to his father, receiving no replies, which disappointed him. Then, a new letter arrived, mostly from Kobe, where Tamako was studying medicine. It included a letter from his uncle, who had learned from Tamako that Shima, despite his disability, was striving to rehabilitate and wanted to study again. The uncle thought Shima was a great kid and should not drop out, so he decided to help him resume his education. Shima immediately called his uncle to express his gratitude and aimed to enter the 2nd year of high school directly, starting his studies energetically, motivated by the desire to protect Yuzuki. Ryu also visited them with food, and Yuzuki watched her like guarding against a thief, making Shima sigh that he couldn't study like this. A few days later, Yuzuki saw in the newspaper that her admired singer, Kotori, from the Taisho period, was coming to town. Everyone decided to go to the station to see Kotori. Surprised by the singing, Shima and Yuzuki returned home afterward and immersed themselves in study, undisturbed by others. With diligent effort, Shima successfully entered college, bringing joy to his uncle and Tamako. On the first day of school, Yuzuki was very nervous. After preparing a bento, she watched Shima leave. Due to his tall stature, Shima attracted a lot of attention at school. When he went to the office to register, he discovered many students gathered outside. It turned out that, besides Shima, a new transfer student named Hakaru had also joined the school. Hakaru, who is Kotori's twin brother, had recently moved to the area. Compared to Hakaru, who was popular because of his sister Kotori, Shima faced worse treatment. His family was known as the Oni family, causing fear among the students, especially when they heard about Shima's injured right hand. Everyone decided to keep their distance from him. During physical education, Shima could only change his clothes with one hand due to his injury, which affected the class. The teacher punished everyone to run laps because of this, isolating Shima further. Students complained about being affected by Shima's slow dressing and wondered why he didn't ask for help. During lunch, everyone enthusiastically invited Hakaru to dine with them. Hakaru glanced back at Shima, wanting to say something, but was pulled away to the dormitory. Shima ate alone, finding the bento Yuzuki prepared delicious and thoughtful. The surrounding indifference complicated his feelings, making him tear up. Yuzuki was worried about Shima's situation at school. In the afternoon art class, the teacher asked everyone to draw someone important to them. Unexpectedly, Hakaru sat next to Shima and curiously glanced at his drawing of Yuzuki making the bento. Hakaru laughed at Shima's poor drawing skills, and both were scolded by the teacher for their ugly drawings. When Shima returned home in the afternoon, Yuzuki was delighted to prepare tea for both, not noticing that Hakaru was Kotori's brother. They said they came back to improve their drawing skills. Hakaru praised Yuzuki as a good kid, and Shima agreed, feeling a bit embarrassed as he went to pour tea. Yuzuki asked Shima how school was. Shima hid his troubles to keep Yuzuki from worrying, saying he was doing well at school. Overhearing this, Hakaru thought it was wrong for Shima to lie to make others laugh. After finishing their drawing, Hikaru told Shima that using lies for laughter was inappropriate. Shima admitted he just didn't want Yuzuki to worry, even if it meant lying. After Hikaru pointed out the issue, Shima decided to tell the truth, but Hikaru suggested turning the lies into reality instead. Yuzuki cooked dinner and invited them to eat. While dining, Hikaru praised Yuzuki's cooking and mentioned he had made a good friend and would come over for meals in the future. This embarrassed Shima greatly. Yuzuki saw Shima's expression for the first time, and all three were very happy. The next day was a holiday, and Hikaru indeed brought people to visit Shima's family. That's when Yuzuki realized Hikaru was the idol Kotori's twin brother. Kotori said she needed a favor from Yuzuki. She wanted to learn about romance from Yuzuki. Kotori had recently been interviewed for a girls' magazine and received many questions about love. Therefore, she decided to write a song about love to inspire these girls. However, Kotori knew little about love, so she asked her brother for advice. Unexpectedly, Hikaru knew a couple who were in love and directly visited them. Kotori loved singing very much. Both Shima and Yuzuki understood her well, but Shima noticed Hikaru seemed a bit down. Yuzuki and Shima decided to help Kotori. They found her a nice house to stay in and gather inspiration. Kotori gradually found some inspiration, but she noticed something was off with Hikaru every time. Later, as Shima and Yuzuki interacted normally, Kotori kept observing them for inspiration, making Yuzuki and Shima feel embarrassed about their usual behavior. Shima initially planned to continue teaching children. When the children arrived, they found Kotori there. Seeing that studying was impossible in such a lively situation, Shima asked Kotori to teach the children singing instead. Yuzuki and Ryu also joined in. While teaching, Kotori was reminded of singing with her brother as children, which made her look a bit sad. After his vacation, Shima returned to school. With Hikaru's encouragement and help, he made his first contact with classmates by lending them a pen. Hikaru even pulled out the latest magazine, claiming he borrowed it from Shima, which made Shima very popular in class. Hikaru is confident about his looks, but when it comes to Kotori, he seems to avoid the topic. Kotori hit a creative block in composing. She was curious about how Yuzuki and Shima met. Yuzuki shared their story, including the ups and downs of their relationship, how seeing Shima made her heart race, and how she felt both happiness and frustration, but always wanted to support Shima. She suggested this might be what love feels like. Kotori related, saying her feelings for music were similar. This realization inspired Kotori, and Yuzuki was happy, expressing anticipation for Kotori's new songs. But Kotori mentioned that it was actually Hikaru who first loved music. Yuzuki and Shima felt something was off between the siblings who seemed to be avoiding each other. Shima confronted Hikaru, who revealed that he first introduced music to Kotori and had to leave music due to illness, gifting his guitar to Kotori. After a miraculous 7-year recovery, Kotori had become a popular singer. Hikaru was too exhausted from his illness to pursue music again. Shima empathized, sharing how injury had once led him to despair, but Yuzuki helped him see the importance of opening up. Inspired by Shima, Hikaru decided to reconnect with Kotori. Kotori was about to release a new song when Hikaru, with help from Shima and Yuzuki, performed on stage, delighting Kotori. The siblings played together and Kotori beamed with joy. Her new love song moved the audience. Later, as Shima rode Yuzuki home, she wanted to confess her feelings but was too shy. She hinted at wanting to travel together, and Shima promised to always be by her side, effectively making a lifelong commitment. Shima now has students under him and friends often visit his home. He enjoys staying at home and regularly writes to his uncle about recent events, asking him to bring Tamako over when he's free. Meanwhile, Yuzuki received a letter from her friend Midori from her school days. Surprisingly, Midori wrote that she is pregnant and about to get married to a newspaper journalist. Although the pregnancy came before marriage, they are planning to wed, which is good news. Yuzuki is close to Midori and is happy about her marriage, but the groom's hometown is in Kyushu. Even though they are currently in Tokyo, Yuzuki worries if they will meet again due to the limited transportation of that era. Shima suggested Yuzuki visit Midori, emphasizing the importance of seeing her close friend. Yuzuki was worried about Shima's condition, but he reassured her that he could manage daily life. He then took her to a nearby shrine known for blessing safe childbirths. Yuzuki, moved by the moment, expressed her desire to visit the shrine if they had children in the future, making Shima blush. Decided Yuzuki prepared to visit Tokyo and told Shima that she asked Ryu to cook for him during the summer, concerned about food preservation. Surprisingly, Ryu agreed despite their rocky past, and Yuzuki believed in her goodness due to her treatment of her younger brothers. Ryu sighed, but eventually agreed, calling Yuzuki too kind. Before leaving, Yuzuki impulsively sought a kiss from Shima, who almost obliged before remembering they were in public. He shyly suggested waiting until her return. Shima watched as Yuzuki boarded the train. In Tokyo, Yuzuki met with Midori, who appeared much more mature. They sat in a cafe where Midori shared her unexpected premarital pregnancy, which led to criticism from family. Fortunately, her fiancé sincerely apologized to each relative and promised to care well for Midori after marriage. Seeing Midori happy reassured Yuzuki, who then presented Shima's gift. Both girls shyly discussed their partners. Midori took Yuzuki back to her temporary apartment and mentioned her husband would stay overnight at the company so they could stay there without worry. They watched the sunset, deeply moved, and sang their school anthem from their girls' school days. They were in high spirits, meeting as close friends. That night, they chatted in bed. Midori joked that if Yuzuki complained about Shima even once today, she would take Yuzuki back to Kyushu. Fortunately, Yuzuki was doing well, so Midori felt much more relaxed. The next day, Midori took Yuzuki out to enjoy Tokyo. They had talked a lot about the future during their school days, and seeing each other happy now felt great. Midori wanted to make sure Yuzuki had fun before she left. Meanwhile, Shima was constantly thinking about Yuzuki. Ryu had prepared food and teased Shima for being lost in thoughts about Yuzuki these past few days. Shima eagerly awaited Yuzuki's return, more than he had ever anticipated someone's return. However, at that moment, the devastating Great Kanto earthquake struck, plunging Japan into silence. Shima's place was relatively stable, and he escaped unharmed, but many houses in his village collapsed. He wanted to help, but the villagers, noting his injured hand, told him to rest. Seeing his small village reduced to rubble, he dreaded to imagine the state of Tokyo, where Yuzuki was. Ryu initially wanted to calm Shima, but her own family situation was grim, prompting her to rush home. Shima secluded himself at home, blaming himself for letting Yuzuki go to Tokyo. He feared Yuzuki might be trapped under the debris. The more he thought, the more terrified he became, not wanting to lose Yuzuki. Amid aftershocks, he heard a cat's cry and followed it to Yuzuki's room, where he found she had prepared his birthday gifts early, a scarf and a pair of gloves, and had knitted a matching scarf for herself, hoping to wear them together in his car. This discovery renewed Shima's spirits. He decided not to despair. Having given up on everything in his early life, he was not ready to give up on Yuzuki. Shima then prepared food and luggage on his own, resolving to leave his home and search for Yuzuki in Tokyo. Shima met Ryu and her group just as he was leaving the house. After checking her house, Ryu found it had collapsed. She didn't care about her despicable father, but was very worried about her brother still in Tokyo. Learning that Shima was also heading to Tokyo to find Yuzuki, she decided to go with him. The other two brothers and other children stayed behind in the village. Many villagers were injured and there was a shortage of food and medicine, and no places to rest. Thus, Shima decided to have the students and their families take refuge at his place, which still had some food and medicine stocks. The students gratefully agreed. Shima and Ryu then hit the road. It was about 50 kilometers from their location to Tokyo, and it took them a full day to reach a shrine where they stopped to rest. Ryu was especially fond of her eldest brother, who had once protected her from harm. Shima and Ryu ate quickly and continued their journey at dawn. The villages they passed were in dire states, and villagers said Tokyo was even worse, with the earthquake having sparked fires. Shima did not stop, saying he was very worried about Yuzuki, and that believing she was alive gave him the courage to keep going. Ryu, besides looking for her brother, also wanted to see Yuzuki again, who had once called her sister. Following the railway tracks, Shima reached Tokyo Station and found almost all the houses in Tokyo had collapsed, but the station was still intact. So many residents had taken refuge there. Shima frantically searched for Yuzuki among the crowd. At that moment, someone tugged at his clothes. Turning around, he was surprised to see his sister Tamako. Seeing a family member, Shima could no longer resist fatigue and immediately fell unconscious. When he woke up, he saw his uncle. Many medical teams had come to Tokyo to help. His uncle urged Shima to rest, but Shima firmly believed Yuzuki was alive and insisted on finding her. His uncle noted that Shima and Tamako had changed a lot because of Yuzuki, and said that once Shima found Yuzuki, he too wanted to meet the girl. Ryu said she needed to go to Asakusa to find her brother. Shima mentioned there was a gynecological hospital nearby, and planned to check there, hoping Yuzuki and the pregnant Midori might be there. At that moment, Tamako ran after them, saying she had her uncle's permission to join Shima in searching for Yuzuki. The siblings and Ryu then parted ways to look for their loved ones separately. They first went to the nearby gynecological hospital, but found no sign of Yuzuki or Midori. Tokyo's streets were filled with missing persons notices, many of whom had been found deceased. Despite this, the siblings refused to give up. They heard rumors that many people had died from smoke inhalation after being rescued from fires in some areas of Tokyo. To prevent an epidemic, many bodies were cremated on the spot. Shima felt hopeless and told Tamako that if Yuzuki had perished, he would also take his own life. Tamako insisted that Yuzuki was too strong to have died and began to cry. Realizing he had burdened his 13-year-old sister with such worries made Shima feel guilty. They decided to resume their search the next day. As they approached a river, they saw a girl about to jump in. They quickly intervened and were surprised to find it was Midori, who explained she was not trying to commit suicide but was praying. Shima recognized a charm in Midori's hand and eagerly asked if she had seen Yuzuki. Midori regretfully told them that she and Yuzuki had been together during the earthquake, but got separated while escaping the fire with a crowd. Midori had passed out and was taken to a relief station, waking to learn Yuzuki was missing. Midori blamed herself for putting Yuzuki in danger by desiring to see her. Shima shook his head, saying Yuzuki had also been eager to meet Midori and told her not to blame herself. He asked Tamako to escort Midori back to the relief station and declared he would continue searching for Yuzuki. In the days that followed, Shima tirelessly searched for Yuzuki, visiting numerous relief stations and morgues. His mental state began to blur with the strain. Unexpectedly, he encountered the siblings Kotori and her brother, who felt the need to offer comfort after the earthquake. They came to sing and donate food, using their influence to help search for missing people. When they learned of Yuzuki's uncertain fate, they promised to look for her wherever they went. While eating the food provided by the siblings, Shima wept as he continued his search. He felt fortunate to have so many friends around, grateful to Yuzuki for helping him reach out. Conserving his own supplies, Shima continued his search when a child, desperate to find food for his sister, snatched a rice ball from his hand. The sister couldn't keep up, but Shima wasn't upset and gave them both rice balls. Learning that another girl with them was injured and unconscious, Shima decided to help take her to a relief station. There, he noticed a familiar butterfly bow on the girl's head and felt a pang of dread. As he entered the room, he found Yuzuki unconscious. Shima told the children that the idol Kotori was nearby and suggested they seek her help. He also asked the children to help bind his right hand with a scarf. Using the scarf, he successfully lifted Yuzuki and rushed her back to the relief station, relieved she was still alive. While unconscious, Yuzuki recalled events before meeting Shima. Her mother had told her she was born to be happy, but her father had sold her to Shima's family to settle his brother's debts. When Shima's father met Yuzuki, he hoped she would take good care of Shima, who had lost his right hand. Initially worried Shima might be unkind, she found him to be somewhat clumsy but gentle and kind-hearted, and she fell in love with him over time. Yuzuki, being straightforward, wanted to confess her feelings several times but hesitated, knowing Shima was yet to make up his mind, and kept her feelings to herself. Yuzuki had planned to express her feelings to Shima through a letter and a gift, but her shyness prevented her from speaking out. Even though she knew they were destined to marry, she still wanted to voice her feelings. After the earthquake, Yuzuki helped Midori escape, as they both wanted to return to their loved ones. However, they were separated by the crowd. Later, Yuzuki found an injured brother and sister in the rubble and gave her butterfly bow to the girl. Missing Shima deeply and exhausted, Yuzuki then fell into unconsciousness, fearing she might never awake. But faintly, she heard Shima's voice. Feeling she couldn't give up, Yuzuki was determined to express her thoughts and see Shima again. Encouraged by his calls, She finally awoke from her coma. They both cried intensely. In a spontaneous moment, Yuzuki bit Shima's cheek, causing onlookers to blush. Gathering her courage, she finally told Shima how much she loved him, but they were embarrassed by the crowd watching them. Regaining her senses, Yuzuki worried about Midori and the other children. Fortunately, Midori had received help at a maternity hospital and reunited with her husband. The other two children were also well cared for. Shima's uncle greeted Yuzuki and fed her porridge, which moved her to tears, grateful to be eating again during their post-disaster celebration. Surprisingly, Shima's father and sister arrived, intending to take the uncle to treat their eldest son. However, the uncle stated he had left the family and needed to help other patients. He only wrote a letter of introduction for Shima's father, informing him that Shima had regained confidence and learned to value others more after leaving the family. Before his father left, Shima expressed relief that he was unharmed. Shima taught children in the disaster area. Ryu successfully found his brother and helped him and his employer recover from the disaster. Yuzuki stayed at the relief station to help. Everyone did what they could. A month later, everyone gradually recovered from the disaster. They were even treated to a hot spring trip by the villagers because Shima generously lent his house for shelter. Kotori commented that Yuzuki had a nice figure and wondered how she would look in a dress, believing it would definitely dazzle Shima. Meanwhile, while soaking in the hot springs, Ryu approached Yuzuki to apologize for hurting her when they first met. He shared that he had once been sold and almost harmed by criminals, feeling initially jealous that Yuzuki, who was also sold, seemed to be doing well. He regretted hurting such a kind person. Yuzuki said she actually quite liked Ryu's sisterly personality. Just then, Tamako arrived, and Kotori reminded Shima that they were returning. When Shima entered the house, he discovered that everyone had organized a belated birthday party for him. His lending of the mansion, along with food and medicine, had helped the village rebuild quickly. The villagers were very grateful to Shima, who was moved and thanked his friends. The rebuilding was not only of homes, but also of Shima and everyone's spirits. Finally overcoming his psychological shadows, Shima and Yuzuki went up the mountain again where Yuzuki confessed her love. Shima, delighted, said Yuzuki never fell into despair and her cheerfulness had influenced him. They kissed under a big tree, sharing their heartfelt feelings. "Darn it, just go get married already,"